So, for the next few weeks or however long all of this remote learning lasts, I am going to go over a poem or so a week, partially just for fun and partially because my students are reading a couple of poems to go along with the longer texts that we're studying together in our courses. Today I'm going over Vampires Today by Kristen Tracy. This is her, and I've gotten this poem from the Poetry Foundation website. The poem first appeared in 2017 in the December issue of Poetry, and I'm hoping that both the folks at the Poetry Foundation and Kristen Tracy won't mind the fact that I've assigned this poem to my students and I'm doing this video. So the first thing I'm going to do is read the poem aloud, and we'll go from there, noticing things about it, talking a little bit about poetic form and how it can help us to understand the poem more clearly. So this is Vampires Today by Kristen Tracy. Once there was a year where every romance had fangs. It was hard to open up a novel without a vampire breathing down on a young virgin neck. Soon they were on the television. Later, the sidewalks. Teenagers. They owned us with their hackneyed plots. Platinum fleur-de-lis emblazoned on their jeans. How do they wash them? I asked. They don't, my friend said. It's part of what keeps them so dark and stiff. An entire generation has arrived, dark and stiff, unlike my pliable, light, pubescent years. I grew up reading Little House on the Prairie. Sweet, blind Mary stole my heart. Turn the page. Oklahoma. Wild Mustangs. Malaria and Pa. Talk about a hero. Now they have boys so angry they transform into wild, shirtless dogs. They're maniacs, these fans. They beg their mothers to drive them to the theater where they burst into dollars and popcorn in their seats. They want the car tossed off their withering girl bodies. Lured from their couches, they are eager to be taken from their lives and placed directly in the vampire's mouth. Younger and younger. Ka-ching. Is there nothing anyone can do? Okay, so this poem is a poem that I think is fairly easy to understand in that the speaker is simply expressing an opinion, right? Making an observation and comparing what she sees happening in front of her now to what happened in her own childhood. So once, this tells us that there's a story, there's something that she's going to recount. Once there was a year where every romance had fangs. This was a remarkable thing, right? It was hard to open up a novel or a book without a vampire bearing down on a young virgin neck, right? Girls, young girls, inexperienced girls are often the prey of vampires. Soon these vampires were on television. Again, this is straightforward. Later, we see them all over. Okay, so these teenagers and the things that they like have moved popular culture, right? They've owned us. That owning, that spread into popular culture comes through fashion in particular here. And the dark, stiff jeans become a stand-in for the dark stiffness of this generation of teenagers that the poet doesn't seem to understand. So there, moving into the fourth stanza, the poet's speaker contrasts this new reading that the teens are doing with the reading that she did in her pubescent years. I grew up reading Little House on the Prairie, she says, and then she gives examples of things that she remembers from that experience. Now, however, they have boys so angry they transform into wild shirtless dogs. this is, I think, a nod toward Jacob in the Twilight series. And you can see here lots of these vampire novels were published around the year 2008. They beg their mothers, these fans, these maniacs. That's a doubling, right? A fanatic and a maniac are the same kind of thing. They beg their mothers to drive them to the theater, where they burst into dollars and popcorn in their seats. And so you get the image of popcorn popping, but also the commodification of these fans, these girls. And the commodification of those girls leads back into their desires and what's happening to them. They want the car tossed off their withering girl bodies. They're lured from their couches. They're eager to be taken and placed directly into the vampire's mouth. Girls read these novels. I've read these novels. We read these novels to escape, right? But this kind of escapism, the speaker is worried, might be problematic. And it happens to children, kids, women who are younger and younger. Cha-ching, this commodification mixed with desire. And then the last line asks a rhetorical question, perhaps, like, is there nothing anyone can do, right? The feeling of this poem, is sort of like kids today, right? And that's why we have the title Vampires Today. It's vampires standing in for the kids, right? It's the monster that is desired standing in for the readers that are doing the desiring. So that's our basic meaning of the poem. In the next video, I'll go through some formal features of the poem, and we'll talk about how those increase our knowledge